Hello everyone and welcome to Whiskey Wednesday. Today something a little bit different for you all to look at and for me to talk about. For a long time, I think since June, just after I came back from New York, I was asked to go to Glasgow and be part of a team which was going to help pick the first Maker's Mark single barrel imported into Europe. And obviously you don't say no to something like that. So I instantly said yes, booked my tickets, went up, had a wonderful day with Amanda Humphrey, who's the diplomat or the brand ambassador for the UK for all of Maker's Mark. And we sat down, myself and two of the people from the whisky shop, Claire and Neil, and we started making our own single barrel select private stock Maker's Mark. Now, for those of you that watch this channel, you know I love bourbon, so this was like upper echelon for me. It was like gold tier, ultimate whiskey experience. So we sat down and we made 5 different blends, all of them very unique, all of them very different, but we eventually decided on 2. So we actually picked the first 2 single barrel Maker's Marks that were going to be imported into Europe. Our session was the first, and I'm quite privileged to say that was me, I was part of that. Now this is the bottle. This is batch 001. We will have batch 002. It's 110 proof or 55% alcohol. And our stave selection, and for those of you that are unfamiliar with this entire process, Maker's Mark 46, which is this regular bottle here, it's a 6-month finishing process in standard bourbon barrels with 10 French toasted French oak staves in the middle of it to give it a slightly more interesting and unique flavour profile. That's Maker's 46. Our private select utilises 10 staves. 2 of them are Maker's 46 staves, so what was used to make this. 3 of them are Seared French Cuvee, which give this kind of slightly chocolatey, rich, like cocoa kind of smell, like creme de cacao kind of thing. 5 of them are Roasted French Mocha Staves. And when we were chatting to Amanda, we were told that this Mocha Stave is going to be discontinued. It will no longer be available as a select stave. So we all kind of thought, okay, let's utilize this. So 50% of the entire stave selection utilizes this roasted French Mocha style. The 2 we didn't use were the baked American oak, because we thought it was a bit too green for a Christmas release, and the spiced French oak, which we enjoyed, but was a little bit too over the top for our flavor profile anyway. But this is it. This is batch 01. I've picked a couple of things in the past that have come into this company, but not been like a key part of it. But this is quite a proud moment for me. So here we are talking about it. So we'll talk about the smell. As it's a bourbon, it is a natural colour, so there's nothing been added to that at all. But we'll see what it smells like. The biggest thing you get straight away is spearmint, like a eucalyptusy, really green spearmint kind of style. Underneath that is a little bit of linseed oil. It's kind of hard for me to describe what linseed oil is to the general public, but for those of you that know, you will know. There's a beautiful touch of roasted oak, like this really kind of slight baked, tannic kind of style to it. And then kicking around underneath that is this beautiful coffee bean, like roasted earthy coffee flavour, a little bit of dark chocolate. Maker's is obviously a wheated bourbon, and I love Maker's, I love Weller, Bernheim as well, big fan of that. And it's just got that really kind of beautiful, elegant butterscotch, caramel, you know, like vanilla pod kind of thing in there as well. There's a little bit of spice from the ABV, not loads, just a little bit running through, but it just emphasizes this earthy, smoky, rich, rounded style, without me being biased, of course. Let's taste it. The key point. I remember something Amanda said to me when we broke and started having lunch. was if you're going to make a bourbon that's going to be powerful, make sure it can pair well with a steak. This does that in so many ways. The initial taste is almost like a layering of like molasses and brown sugar. Coats all your tongue or your palate. And for a while it almost seems like it doesn't do anything. It seems to lag behind itself. You just think, oh, it's sweet. It's, you know, it's a typical kind of wheated style bourbon. But then it almost gets like an afterburn effect. Out of nowhere, from like the left and the right, you get this big hint of dry coffee, and you get this really intense hit of oak, and it becomes such a chewy, thick product. It's like chewing tobacco, like old school kind of, you know, molasses in a jar. You know, kind of summed up the idea of Kentucky almost in like a nostalgic way. And then the spice develops and develops and develops, and it gets bigger. And it almost reminds me of, you know, those synonymous bottles of like Elijah Craig barrel proof, and it's got a little bit of Stag Junior thrown in there and a little bit of elements of the BTAC styles. It's only about, at a guess, maybe 6.5, 7, 8 years old. It's in the same realm of some of those Tom H. Handy bottlings. And the spice, even though there's no rye in it, the spice would make you think it has some sort of rye content, even though it doesn't. One more taste, then we'll score it. You do have to give it time on the palate. If you're chewing it and chewing it and chewing it, you'll get that spice developing. You'll get that big fundamental roasted mocha flavour that myself, Claire and Neil tried in that tasting room in Glasgow many, many months ago. It's a delicious product, and obviously the bias is setting in a little bit now. Maker's 46 is a great product in its own right, but being able to customize it and make it ours, I can only give it a 10. Like, you can call me biased if you want in the comments, but I can only it's like it's something I've handpicked myself and helped make. Such a delicious product, and it's not going to set you back crazy money, as some whiskies at this kind of cash strength level do. A wonderful selection, and eventually when we do batch 2, that is a much more subtle, almost like sherried glendronach kind of flavour to it. But I'll leave with that insight, because we will be reviewing batch 2. This case is coming home with me. I've already bought all 6. This is my bottle, which we've opened and let you try, and we're talking about. If anyone wants a sample, do hit me up, because I will happily send you some. Yeah, it's really cool. Like, any of us out there that have ever been asked to make a whiskey or help produce a whiskey, it's quite an important thing. And just like a special thank you to Maker's Mark, to Amanda Humphrey, to Lawrence, to the Whiskey Shop for putting my name forward for it. My name isn't on the bottle, but if you want a signed one, I'll do it. But it's really cool, and I'm going to sort of cherish this moment for a very long time. So thank you all for watching. You can call me biased, which is fair, but it's a 10. And if any of you are interested in a sample of it, like, send me a private message on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. I'll send some samples out to you guys, and it'd be nice to get like an overall review from the YouTube community, be you makers of content or just commenters yourselves. But thank you all for watching. This is our little bourbon corner. This is our Maker's Mark Private Select batch 001. I'm Phil, this is the Whiskey Shop, and I will see you all next week. Cheers.